Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Coffee Chug, and we're here with another challenge. This challenge here, don't be confused by what you see on the screen, is actually a guessing game, which we did a basic version of this back in lesson 7 when we were exploring comparison operators and we were taking a look at equal, not equal, those types of things. And we ended up creating in the lesson series a guessing game in which you would pick a number and it would tell you it was high or low, and eventually when you got the right number, it would tell you congratulations. What we're going to be doing today is building upon that idea and doing so in a way that not only guesses the game, but allows you to quit at any point in time to break the loop, as well as asking you to whether or not you want to play again. So when it's all over, it's going to say, do you want to play again? If it does, it'll repeat the loop. If you want to get out of it, it'll kick you out. And the last thing this will do that's different from lesson 7 is it's also going to keep track of how many guesses. So let's take a look at the Python code that we have come up with. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it here on the screen so for you to see. And then I'm just going to copy and paste it over in chunks so that way you can see and I can explain in chunks a little bit better for you. Obviously, you know that all the code and everything is available. You can follow along, all that good stuff as we go through. So the first thing we want to do, this is a library that we want to install. This is going to give us all the options to randomize numbers and do those types of things. In this case, we need it for the random integer function that the library comes with. So we're going to import that random, which we've already done several times. And then we're going to create this little condition right here where we're going to make the idea of playing the game true. I'm actually just going to delete these comments out so we can see. And so what's going to happen is while we're playing the game, it's true. And at any point in time, you can see down here in this code, we're going to write some code here at the end that if we say no, that we don't want to play anymore, it's going to kick this out and make the game false, which means that this loop will be done. It'll just deactivate the code and break the loop here. So what we want to do then is get the game up and running. And just so you know, I'm not going to explain every layer of this particular code because you can go back to lesson 7 and see how we built it, but these are the new features that we have added to expand upon the original code play here. So while we are in play game, okay, so while this is true and while we're playing the game, all right, we're going to set our basic structures here, and you're going to see that we're going to do a couple things, which is nothing too crazy, but the first thing we're going to do is making this variable n, and n is going to be the random number that we're trying to guess, the secret number, so to speak, whatever you want to name that. And then we're going to create another variable that we didn't have in the first code, and that's going to be total. This is the number of guesses that the person is using in order to figure it. So you can call this whatever you want. I'm just calling it total, and when we start, keeping it at 0. And then we have our guess. And this is the variable in which the user is going to be inputting an integer from 1 to 100, or you can see that now we've added the option, you can type quit to leave. All right. Now this is all the stuff that we have done before. All right. So I'm just going to copy these things over down to this part here, because all this is another while block that we have done what we had in the original game, where we, in this series, okay, so have already figured this out and explained. So when we're talking about equality and operators, so while guess, whatever this person inputs here, is not equal, okay, to the random number, it's going to run this loop. What we did is we had to add a new feature in here, and that's what this one is. If guess is equal to quit, it's going to say you quit the game, thanks for playing, and it's moving play game to false, and it's breaking. It's done, it's out of the loop. All right. It's important to put this one first. If you don't do this first, it'll just keep running as if you picked a high number. It's not going to calculate. So one of the glitches I had early on is I had all these in here, and then this guess at the end, and it never worked, and the code's kind of lagged on that part there. So first we're starting with this. Did the user type and quit? Else, now we're running what we had before in our basic code in lesson 7. So if guess is less than the number, it's going to add 1 to the total variable for our guesses. It's going to tell you the guess is too low. It's going to tell you you've guessed, however many times that is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's going to ask you again to pick an integer. All right, if we go through here and you haven't added quit, and it's not less than, and it's greater than, same type of thing happens, except for now it's just going to tell you that you guessed too high. And then finally, if pick a number, and it's not lower than, and it's not greater than, then we know that you picked the right number. So we're going to say, boom, you guessed correctly. It took you total amount of tries. Game over. Okay? This is where we have to add this new part down here, where once the game's over, we want to know if we want to play another game. So I just made another little variable here called another game, and asking for a string. So the input we're converting to a string here. Do you want to play again? Yes or no? And all we're putting here then is if another game is equal to no, we're changing play game to false, that's what's up here. Okay, so while this is true, it's going to keep running this. But once it turns this to false, it's done. But it kicks out, game over. And so if we don't receive anything else, we're assuming that they want to play again. We're keeping play game as yes, and then it's going to loop back up, and you're going to keep playing. So let's take a look at this. I'm not going to save this particular one, but if we run this module here, okay, so if I pick 50 here, guess is too low, you've guessed one time, enter an integer from 1 to 100. All right, I'm going to pick 75. We've guessed too low. How about 85? 95. All right, 87. 88. There it is. Boom, you guessed correctly. It took you 6 tries. The game's over. Do you want to play again? If I were to type yes, we're going to go again. Okay, so if I start guessing here, all right, now you can see here now if I type in quit, tells me I quit the game, thanks for playing. So now we have a way to get out of the game that we didn't have before. This is going to be important as we expand upon our game development skills and start to do some more advanced stuff, that we always have a way to get out. So this is what the Python code looks like. Now let's go and head over to Scratch and look at what the Scratch code looks like with these new features. Okay, so here's the guess number game. If we think back to lesson 7, if you watch that video, I just remixed that code because we already had the basic of a code that was guessing high, low, and spot on. So what we've done here is we've changed a few things, and so I'm not going to rebuild the entire code. I'm just going to add some comments as we go. All right. And so the first thing that we did was I changed up the start here, and you're going to notice that we have this broadcast block. And this is designed to start the game. This is different from before. We just did a click and began. But this broadcast block, later on you're going to see, is going to allow us to play the game again, as opposed to with just a green click. Once the game was over, that was the end. And now with this is we can broadcast a signal, basically, that's going to allow us to play the game over and over again. So I'm just going to make that note in here with this comment block. Okay, so you can see all this stuff is relatively the same, pretty much in line with Python. So when we receive start, we've got our end variable, picking a random number from 1 to 100. And we're going to repeat this whole entire thing of code. This is where it can get a little tricky in Scratch. We're going to repeat until it equals the answer. So remember we talked about in Python, it's the opposite, right? We're always looking for not equals, so to speak. So here we have as long as while of the variable is not equal to n, Scratch does the opposite. We're waiting for it to be equal. So it's asking us to pick a number between 1 and 100. Now, as opposed to typing in quit, I just use numbers. It's easier in Scratch to do so. So if you at any point in time type 90210, it's going to quit the game. And that's what this first if block is, this if else block here. So if answer is equal to 90210, it's going to tell you thanks for playing. And then it'll ask you, though, do you want to play again? And if you want to play again, you type in 5150, Great Album by Van Halen, and it'll loop you back up because it's going to broadcast the start option, and it's going to kick all the way back up to the top, and this game's going to play again. Otherwise, you're done. You don't have to play at all. So if you don't type in 515L, else, stop all, game's over. So we have that in the beginning, just like we did here in Python, right, where we were checking to see if we typed quit. Same thing, now we're just looking for 90210 or 5150. And then everything else is exactly the same as we've done before. So if all this isn't an issue, then we're going down to this else block here, and it's going to pick. If the answer is greater than the variable, it's going to tell you the number is too high, and choose again, which all this does is loop back up here to pick a number, and we repeat the cycle. Okay. If it's less than, your number's too low, choose again, wait 1 second, and it kicks back up to the very top. It's going to ask you to pick a number, and you need to go through the process again. If it's not greater than, and if it's not less than, then we know that it's the same. And that's why we're going to say, boom, you got it. It's going to ask if you want to play again, the 5150. If you want to play again, you can type that in. All right. If the answer is equal to 5150, it's going to broadcast start. If you type in anything else, game is over. And then once it kicks out, then we have this little cheer knowing that you guessed the number properly, if you want to get out of there. And actually, now that I think about this, is we want to move this up here because this may not at all be true. So actually, let's just get this out. We don't actually need that. So now when we go to play this, you can see I'm showing the variable. We can obviously, if you're playing this with other people, you want to turn that off. We know the answer is 54. So if I type in 50, you can see it's too low. If I type in 90, it's too high. If I type in 54, you guessed it correctly. If we want to play again, so if I type in 5150, we're going to go again. And now if I want to put in 90210, it kicks us out. That's how we quit. So this is the code for Scratch. Okay, I'll minimize this. You can start to see here of what all this looks like. And then this is what it looks like in Python. All right, so once again, you're starting to see some similarities, hopefully. And it just what we've done is we've come back and we've revisited and we've just added a few more layers to make it a little more robust. So I hope you found this helpful. As always, thanks for watching. Let me know what questions you have. And until next time, stay awesome.